A new era is upon us. Pulse has taken the world by storm as the leading Web3 social media. Beyond current features like casting, tipping, inscription trading, and earning, it's now elevating to the next level, on-chain.
Soil, a fully regulated, seamless link between traditional finance and the digital crypto world, offering secure returns fully backed by tangible, real-world assets.
The Credifi testnet is live, so head on over to demo.credifi.finance to see how you can effortlessly experiment with autonomous earning, NFT corporate bonds, Credi and X-Credi utilities, and Module X.
Good afternoon, everyone. BC Richfield here, coming to you live from London. It's just gone a couple of minutes past midday, making it a few minutes past 1100 UTC. Big shout out to everybody joining the stream live today. See some familiar faces and some new people in the chats as well. Gio, Nit, Erica, everybody else that's signed in this morning. Good morning. Good morning. Great to see you all. Also, a big shout out to everybody that is watching this on recording. So, Alt Request Wednesday is upon us. We've had some movement in the markets. We've been looking for some upsides and some key levels, which we're going to cover today, starting with Bitcoin. Craigie boy, hello, and happy hump day to you as well, my friend. So, I wanted to kind of, start on Bitcoin. We're going to move across onto Ethereum, obviously, as well. Please do let me know in the comments if you've got any charts you would like me to take a look at. Erica, I saw on Twitter earlier you had a request go in that has fallen on deaf ears. I do apologize if I've missed it. So do pop it in the channel and we will take a look today. So important things here on Bitcoin. So look, been very, very vocal about this. Once we took out this low down here at 56,697, which we were targeting from all the way up here, we've rebalanced this now. This is a weekly gap. Blair, good morning. Simon as well. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Which is a weekly gap, right? We expect reactions at this level. We've also taken this kind of internal high here. Now, the key area we were watching was this fair value gap here that had spent all the week rejecting price, right? Moving to this week, we get the close above it on Sunday. What's our target up here? 63,797. So what are we aiming for now? And like Blair's saying, we hope we can get back above 70K. So let's absolutely take a look at that. Yes, sure, Simon. Let me just make a note of that. We'll absolutely take a look at Edu. If you've got any other requests, guys, please do pop them in the channel and we'll take a look. So with this one, so like Blair's saying about getting up above 70K again, I think actually the key level here that we're looking for is 71,946 here on Femex, which is this high up here, right? Now, this is a really, really key one for me. Okay, so Manta and Near, nice. Okay, so someone definitely heavily involved in Manta. There's a few requests for that recently. And Near as well, which is really, really good. Suleiman K, hello, mate. What have we got? Aave, XRP, and Room. No worries. Aave, XRP, and Room. As always, guys, I'm going to really focus on the kind of higher time frame stuff. If you are an intraday trader and you're interested in those lower time frame charts, please do let me know and we'll take a look, okay? So looking at this now, really, really simply, we're saying, what are we doing above this? Well, the key thing for me and the reason I've drawn this level across, normally, like with this one, when we sweep a level, that liquidity is taken. If we have a reaction, I'll pull the level back. If we close above it, then I normally draw it across. These levels tend to make really good areas of support and resistance. And just to pick one at random, see this wick high here? Right, what happened? So price reacted here and it came up to take liquidity. Now, if we were going to drop down into here, which we did, and ultimately find support, what are we looking for in terms of support here? Well, when we've shifted structure, which we've done by taking out this internal high here, we're looking for this area, right, to act as bullish support. It's a gap, right? So the price, what the market does is it seeks liquidity either above old highs, old lows, excuse me, or it's looking to rebalance. And inefficiency, which is a fair value gap, that's when you get these gaps in the market where there's a failure to pair orders. The markets like to be efficient, price is drawn back into this area, and then we've driven away. Excuse me. Now, this is a really good example again here of this wick high here. Obviously, there was sell pressure there, right? So we look to see how price reacts when we get back here. This strong close with a really large bodied candle above it, and then price's ability to hold this area here, set a bullish order block, and then what happens, right? Price sets the bullish order block here. You'll see these in my charts in blue. Normally, fair value gaps will all be grey. I do them on the live show, which is obviously open to everyone, as green and red. So green for the bullish ones, red for the bearish ones. So it helps you guys, if you're not familiar with the concepts, to understand what's going on. Now, this order block here is confirmed, for me anyway, the way that I look at it, when price closes above it. We get that close above here. Henceforth, you see this top line across here, which you'll normally see on my charts just as a black line like this. This signifies the order block. So what do we look? We look for that to hold, and look how perfectly that offers support and price moves up. Why is that significant? Well, it's significant because when we come back to this level here, if you think of traditional support and resistance levels, what happens? We find support here, support here. Then when we close below that level, look at the difference here. No close, no close. Price closes. Look how the wicks go above, but the bodies can't close, and then we sell off. Why is that significant? It's significant because we're holding this level in a very, very similar way, okay? So when we got that strong close above it, we expect price to retest into it and then hold. What we want to do now is kind of dive into the lower time frames and take a look, starting with the 4 hour, to see what we can use as confirmation. Because, look, you could just place a limit order here. You're going to struggle to say where your risk is going to go, right, as in where your stop loss goes. So we drive down into the lower time frames now to find a place to enter. Now, I'm going to cover a little bit more of that as we go down to the 4 hour, and then the rest of these charts we're going to absolutely rip through. All right. So Blair, yeah, of course we can. So Solana and James, yes, certainly, mate. KAS as well. So Blair, we're going to take a look at this in terms of longing. Personally, when we have these moves, it's normally the right thing, or normally the correct thing, to wait for a pullback. Now, even if we just take the immediate swing low to the current swing high, and we split that into a 50% range, normally you're looking for price to retrace down towards this 50% level, and you're looking for a reason for price to do so. Well, the reason for price to do so is this bullish gap that sits down here. So while it's really key to keep this level, it wouldn't surprise me to see price still do something like this, all right, and then come back above. Now, the key thing here is that look at this candle here, right? Price can wick all the way down into here and still close above, as this candle did, right? Now, Bitcoin is not always the most efficient market. When this thing wants to rip, the same as cryptocurrency in general, it will absolutely rip. So with that in mind, we want to keep that marked out, but now we're going to move down to our 4 hour chart, and we're going to see what we can do. So something that's given me a lot of encouragement here, and let me just turn these session breaks off so it doesn't get too messy. You're very welcome, Blair. Okay, so here we have this bearish gap, right? Now, how we approach gaps is when you see one of these bearish gaps approach, or a bullish gap, yeah, then we're looking for them to offer resistance and support respectively. So yes, we have a higher time frame gap here that we're targeting on the daily, but we're going to get rid of that for a moment because that's not been tagged. Look what happened here, which is a prime example. What do we have here, right? We have a bullish gap. What happened? It was set here, price dips into that, finds the buyers, and then moves higher. So what are we now looking for? Well, quite simply, if we disrespect one of those gaps, we disrespect them by closing above them in this case, or below them if we're looking at them the other way, then this becomes what's known as a fair value gap inversion. I'm just going to draw this across here for a second as well. So what's a fair value gap inversion? Well, this area should provide resistance. When it does not, and it closes above, we expect this area to find support. Now, where do we expect this support to hold until? Well, until price takes the next key liquidity, which is the swing high. And this here was the next swing high, right? So what happens? Price closes above. See how it leaves this level untagged, draws right back down into here to retest, yeah, and find out if the buyers really are stepping in here. Then we get that lovely expansion. Now, moving down with the lower time frames, we'd be looking at this and saying, okay, well, this now is probably a good level to hold, right? So I wouldn't really be kind of running into long positions here at the moment after we've had such a big expansion. But on a 4 hour basis, now price is kind of correcting a bit lower. I'd be looking for this area here to hold. And on the lower time frames, looking for patterns like this, where we set a low, sweep a low, close back above it, and form this kind of base in here, right? So what we're looking for over here is for price to set a low, like it does there. Then we're looking for the high, which is here. Yeah, that's the high that led to the sweep of the low. We want to see that close through, and you want to see that close through quite aggressively. You can then be a buyer in and around this area. You know, there's lots of different ways to enter the market. You could just pop a limit order on here, for example, when price closes above here. Wait to get yourself tagged in. Obviously, it doesn't always happen, so you will miss some trades, but sometimes and quite frequently it does retest this area. And then from there, you know where your risk is. You know where you're wrong, right? So that we would look for on a lower time frame, all right? So just to give you a very quick example of that before we move on to the other charts, if we take this order block here, and then we jump down onto, say, like more of an execution-based time frame, what are we looking for, right? We're looking for reactions in this area, yeah? Now, normally I would kind of favor kind of entering on a lower time frame, but what you can see here is that the important thing is this is our buy zone, right? So what do we want to do? We want to see liquidity swept. So you want to see a key low taken out, which we can see here. Price drives into this, taking liquidity below that low. And then from here, we're saying to ourselves, all right, what can we do for an entry? Well, what did I just say up here? If we go back and kind of look at this pattern again, right, we'll look a bit more stretched on this, right? So we've set the low, yeah? We want to see that low swept. Then we want to see the high that swept the low, right? So all we do is just find the high, which is here. So we've swept this local low as well as this, yeah? But this is a key low that we've swept here. So we're saying, where's the last swing high? Well, the high for me has to be flanked by two lower highs. So it's this one, yeah? So then what you're saying is, okay, this is the area that you can then look to be a buyer. And you can do that in a number of different ways. You can set a limit order on this line. You can dive into the lower timeframes to find some setups in here. The key thing is the reaction that you see at this level, right? You want to see price have that strong expansion above it and just let you know that the buyers are stepping in, all right? That's the key thing. So that's what we're looking for. Now, with price correcting lower at the moment, what we want to say to ourselves is, okay, where are our key liquidity pools? Well, quite simply, we've swept Asia's low. That's what this red box is, okay? So after sweeping Asia's low, we've now got to say to ourselves, okay, that wasn't the strongest reaction up, right? If the buyers were really in there and that was going to hold, we would have expected this to pump quite a lot. We're down below New York's midnight opening price, which is a really good level for those people that use that as confidence to trade. So you want to typically be long below it, short above it. So we can see here what happened. Price expanded up, took this high above New York midnight price, sold off to look for liquidity lower. So now we kind of lean on the New York session like we did yesterday, right? And you're looking for price to drive in, and look, we're looking for these same kind of reactions, right? What have we done? We've swept a low, all right, here. Now, interestingly enough, price comes down. What have we done here? This is the high that swept that low. Look at that beautiful strong close above it. This is what lets you know that you can be a buyer here, right? Now, does it work all the time? Of course it doesn't. Anyone that tells you that things work in the market all the time are delusional, sadly. If they did, there just simply wouldn't be a market, right? Now, they're the kind of core concepts. We keep it simple, right? On any time frame we're on, we are looking for price, yeah? And let's just give an example of this morning's price action. We are looking for price to attack liquidity above old highs or below old lows, right? So what did we have here? We had Asia's high, which was also equal highs, yeah? Key liquidity pool. So when we stepped in just before the London session this morning, our expectation is that price is moving lower. We don't have any inefficiencies in this move, meaning we don't have any fair value gaps. However, if we look at the expansion leg higher, so from this low to this high, yeah, we can see that we're looking for things in the lower 50%. For anybody that studied, say, like Michael's core concepts course, like ICT, then you're using this in the version of a premium and discount range, meaning that you're looking to be long from discount and short from premium. So with this, what do we look for? Well, we want to see price react to a nice bullish gap, which we get here, and sweep a low. So here's our bullish gap. There's our low. That was our intraday long play. Now, obviously, price comes back down. It might take out the stop here, but you've also got to remember that we've now shifted structure on the 15-minute. There's the low. There's the high. There's the lower low. Yeah. Now we're asking ourselves, is this drawing back to make a lower high? So if we then apply the same principles here, there's our 50-50 range from the expansion leg down. Well, what would we be targeting to go short? Well, we would be targeting the bearish gaps. Yeah. So you're looking at this here. You obviously have this little volume imbalance in here. So we want to check that area out. And then look, this is where you would then take your short positions. Where would we then target? Well, price is then reaching for the next liquidity, which exists below that low, okay? So that's the state of flux that the markets live in when you look at the markets from a perspective of liquidity. So with that in mind, let's pop back to our 4 hour and just kind of set out what our plan is for the day. I want to see price back down in this area. I certainly want to see this level hold 63,797 here on Femex. I want to see that pull back, this area hold. Quite simply, if we come down and price closes below this, yeah, and we're technically closing back within this lower range, then my expectation is for price to seek liquidity at the swing low down here and ultimately start moving lower into this expansion move up. As long as we hold this area, we remain bullish. We're in bullish structure. And one other thing we're going to look at quickly before we rip through the rest of these charts is what the traditional markets are doing. And we can see that there's been quite a powerful sell-off in equity markets today. And in truth, we look at the NASDAQ, for example, which is the S&P 500, okay? Then you can see on here exactly what's going on with that. I typically favor the ES contracts or the NQ, which is for the NASDAQ, ES, which is the S&P 500. But you can see that there's been quite a large sell-off today. Now, we need to be aware of what's going on in traditional markets. So we're going to pop across and look at the news as well. So I use Forex Factory for this for anybody that's interested. It's completely free. You can use Baby Pips as well. There's some really good ones out there. So looking at this here, today we are on Wednesday, right? So look, no big news catalyst. We've got CPI for Great Britain, which the markets don't particularly care about unless you're trading any currency that's linked with the British pound. So we don't have those major US catalysts, right? That's what we keep an eye out for. That's what typically moves equity markets. Now, as we look down here, right, we're looking into tomorrow and we have unemployment claims, right? So do keep an eye on that. We won't be live tomorrow. I do Mondays and Wednesdays. So do please keep an eye on that. That's at 1:30 London time, 1:30 p.m., excuse me, London time, and 12:30 p.m. UTC, okay? So now, away from that, we're just going to dive in to some aggressive charting. Thank you, Craigie boy. Always appreciate my friend. All right, so we have got Edu, Manta, we've got Near, Aave, XRP, Room, Sol, and Kaz. That's what we're going to rip with. So let's go, shall we? Let's take a look at Edu. And let's go with our partners over at Binance, shall we? And we're going to really kind of drill into these 3 time frames. Weekly, what are we doing on the weekly? Okay, so last thing that we've done here is we have just taken liquidity above this high, right? On a weekly scale, we now need to know how this closes. What's really significant about this is we also have this bearish gap. And why is this significant? Well, just look at it. What's it done? On a weekly scale, resistance. Yes, price wicked above it, but the bodies tell you what the success, where the success was. That was not a successful recovery from the bulls. Again, body closed into it, but the wick came back down. Now we're saying to ourselves, right, this nice expansion that we've had here, we want to see 2 things. First thing we want is for this week to close above this. It would then turn this into an inversion gap, meaning we can then look at this as support. Then we can start building a picture and saying, okay, well, no, they're not equalized because that was swept, which is fine. But price swept liquidity below this low, had a nice reaction, couldn't come above this. Remember, this is still a bearish gap at the moment. So now we're looking for this area to hold as support. Moving down the daily, sorry, the other thing we would want to see is a close above this high would give us a sign of even more strength. And then I think we just have this beautiful target up here. We need to see if these are equal highs, that they are. Right, weekly equal highs up above here. That is a major upside target. Look at that. Okay, they're sat all the way out there at 1.2048, but don't get me wrong. If we close above this and the market's starting to show strength, it's amazing how quickly we can get up there. So on a daily scale, what are we looking at? We can see here the battle that price has been fighting with this level. Rejection, 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 back below. Remember, we need a weekly close, right? We haven't got that yet. However, what we can see is we had a really nice change in state of delivery here, right? So we take these 2. They were the first key down close candles when price closed above this. Look how this level offered support, right? All the way down to the bottom of this body. We then expanded higher beyond that and set that order block there when price closed above. What do we expect? Price to hold that level, which it's done. So now we're kind of building this staircase pattern using our order blocks. Here's the top of this one. Let's put that on the body. Look what happened. Price closed above it, set it there. Look how it's used that as support to drive higher. Now, we know we've got this key liquidity target here, which we want to see price close above, which is on the weekly. So we really want to see this level hold. And then basically from there, we're simply looking at these highs, which are providing these delicious liquidity targets for price, all right? So moving that onto a 4 hour, what do we now want to see? Well, quite simply, we want to see these levels hold, right? So we've set this order block here, which again hasn't been retested. When we closed above it here, price hasn't dipped into this yet. So we may find price move down to hold this area, confirm it as support before moving up. If not on a 4 hour scale, then we want to see a close above this, which is 0.7288. That would then confirm this as a bullish order block, and this whole area should be support. If you look down here, how price has done so moving up, I'll do these in a different color so it stands out, but just to give you the context, so let's do these in light blue, right? Order block is set there when this closes above, right? Price doesn't revisit that, but look how we get expansion. Price then closes above this order block here, aligned with the weekly. The expansion above it then lets us move to this next level, all right? The next one is aligned with the weekly again, and this is why we now want to also see this one here on the 4 hour, all right? So in terms of where we are with Edu, looks pretty bullish from here. We need to see this level hold. We want to see a close above this level here at 0.7288 for continuation, okay? So we're now going to move on to Manta, which is awesome because I love scuba diving. Been fortunate to travel a lot of the world diving, and just, yeah, mantas, just beautiful creatures. All rays are part of the shark family. I'm not sure that's what they're pertaining to when it comes to cryptocurrency, but if you're looking to do something awesome and go and touch some grass, then I couldn't recommend scuba diving enough. So this line here is one of our patrons, someone that's become a good friend of mine and the Bird Nest, and a big part of our wonderful trade club team, where we trade live markets 3 days a week, which we'll be doing after this live show, for example. Just to shill it a little bit, it's basically you get to come on a live show with me and a bunch of our really experienced members. And we trade mostly the NASDAQ, sometimes cryptocurrency, live on the show. We're about 38 are up in the last 4 months, or about 3.5 months, actually. So if you're interested in learning how to day trade, and especially kind of intraday and scalp, then, you know, you're always welcome to come along. You can find information down there in the description. But one of our members, Gio, an absolute superstar, has made this indicator for us. And this here, this line represents equal highs. These are great liquidity pools. So immediately as I look at the 4 hour, I can see price looking to move higher to that. But let's not lose sight of our TA, right? It's very, very important that we follow a process. And we said to ourselves, what are we looking to do? Well, we start on the weekly like we did before. So what are we looking for here on the weekly? Well, quite simply, we've got this slither of a gap here, and just like we just looked at with Edu, we want to see this gap hold. We want to see this hold, close above it here, this turn to an inversion gap, meaning that we flip this from resistance to support and the price can drive higher. Apart from that, price is basically just delivering from this humongous gap, right? What happened? The token launch, and this actually, for me, looking at this chart, you often see this the other way around, right? You often see a token launch have a huge dump, yeah, and then kind of scramble around here for a while, take out the lows, and then look to go higher, right? Not with this. This actually shows quite a lot of strength here because it launched, took off. It's still not back to its launch price, right? Which, considering how brutal the market conditions have been, then, you know, there's something to take into consideration. So moving on to our daily, we can see the key point of this pivot level, right? Even if you allow it to this resistance, 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 boom, below, and then look, resisting this area again. Lo and behold, what do? We invert this gap here. Now price is drawing higher. So what do we want to see? Well, quite simply, I'm looking for liquidity, right? So we've currently got that level that we want to be aware of. And why do we want to be aware of that level? Well, quite simply, that's what's currently capping price, right? It was a swing high. There's bound to be liquidity there, but I think there's going to be more liquidity here and even more above it here. This is the one I'm really interested in because it's sat within a fair value gap. That makes a double liquidity pool, bearish gap Obviously, really, really bearish wick here because price sold off aggressively from this point. What happens when we get to these liquidity targets? Well, they hit people's stop losses, and those stop losses turn into market buy orders, and it allows big accounts or anybody that wants to come and gobble up as much of that liquidity as they want to send the market the other way, right? Very simply, supply and demand. If you've bought down here, you want to sell to someone at a higher price, yeah? If you bought at 0.830, then ideally you want to sell at 1.180. Why here? Because you know there's stop losses there. There's guaranteed liquidity here. You never know how much or if you're going to win that bid, right, or that bet. But they're the key areas that you want to target, all right? So currently price is rejecting from here. So we want to see it kind of move a little bit higher. I think we're going to get a bit more context down here on our 4 hour, right? So again, equal highs sat up here. In 33 minutes, price is going to close. And if we close leaving this gap, then my exact plan for Manta is this. It is to watch price come down, fill this inefficiency here, and then come back for these equal highs, right? To close above this level and then attack liquidity higher up. And then from there, I'll reassess, all right? If we get a strong close above this level, same as with this one, if we have a strong body close, then that's where I'm going to look at. For example, if we take a look at, say, okay, let's say this high is a good example. What do we get? We set this higher, price sells off. That's what makes it significant. This was a catalyst for price having to reach for liquidity lower. And where does it have to reach to? Well, first of all, it reaches down into our gaps, as we said, right? Then if we fail a bullish gap, what happens to it? It inverts. If it inverts, it switches from support to resistance. What does this tell us on the close? It tells us that price needs liquidity lower. There's the swing low. It's exactly where it heads. Then price does the opposite and inverts this bearish gap here. It closes above, price seeks liquidity higher, all right? We keep it really nice and simple. Floki, of course I can look at Floki. We love Floki. We have been long-term partners of Floki pretty much since their launch over at the Bird Nest, and we're proud of all of our partners. You know, you'll hear a lot of bad things in the crypto world, people saying this, people shilling projects, blah, blah, blah. We have an incredible team that work relentlessly around the clock doing due diligence and fundamental analysis on these projects. And Floki, you know, I mean, I could go on forever, you know, Floki, Credi, all these amazing companies that we work with. We work with Binance, Bybit, Femex, you know, SmartDex. We work with so many of these top companies and coins, and we're so proud of everything that Floki have achieved over there. Honestly, they have one of the most amazing teams, and they're just an incredible company. So I'd be more than happy to look at them. And also as well, tokens. So if you want us to take a look at that too. However, Manta, super simple, right? Pulling back to this area. If we close below here, I think we start seeking liquidity lower down, right? However, as long as we hold this area, we're ripping up to these levels, okay? Yeah, Floki, the 10x, it has. We've, you know, very, very fortunate early stage investors in Floki, right? So we were absolutely blessed in that respect, I can tell you. Right, let's take a look at NEAR, yeah? Right, on a weekly scale, what are we doing? So NEAR, I quite like this, right? Again, a key swing low, right? Long wick, showing you there's some serious buying power stepped in there. Did we displace below it? We didn't. Did we close below it? We did not. Look at the wicks. This is showing you strength, right? You're looking for absorption, yeah? Look at this high in comparison. Any absorption there? No. Look at that candle. That candle just tells you that price wants to rip even further. Versus, look at this high here, yeah? Yeah, we get a little close above here. Then we get a very indecisive candle. As soon as price comes back down and price is back within your range, then you can be sure that the likelihood is that price is seeking liquidity lower down, okay? So why is that significant? Well, we don't have a high here, but we do, again, as we've seen with a lot of these, we have this gap, okay? So at the moment, this is a bearish gap. What do we want to see on a weekly scale? We want to see price close above it. Yeah, exactly, like a swing failure pattern. Exactly right. When price is coming into a key high, can't sustain above it and sells off, then you can almost, you know, there's a high likelihood that price is then seeking liquidity lower. Or for example, like this, price swings down below this. There's clearly no momentum. There's no conviction from sellers to sell further, which allows the buyers to step in. And then when enough buyers have stepped in, quite simply, they need to then sell it at a higher price, right? So they target highs, all right, where they know there's going to be stop losses. Now, on here, we can see this has been a really big bullish move. So what I'm looking at immediately is the first FVG here. Now, technically, you would want to kind of look at this whole expansion leg from the low to the high and say to yourself, well, in an ideal world, you have price come back down to one of these gaps that's down here. However, crypto really can just rip. So I'm looking at this kind of area of relative equal highs and saying, okay, let's just look to hold this. Why would we just want to hold this? Well, you kind of look across this level here and you can see that there's just been a key resistance here. You could even really say this, right? Yeah, we had a very small close above, but look, there's no real conviction there. You see the length on the upside wicks. Price then gets immediately below. You then target this low and this low, all right? So why? Resistance, 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 deviation. Price gets back below, sells off to the lows, all right? So crypto can run really hot. So I want to see what happens at this first FVG here. Price comes down, holds this, more upside, and potentially a lot of it, starting with that and then looking up here around about 7.713. However, close below this on a daily scale, and we've not really got many inefficiencies here. So we're then going to be looking around about this kind of level back to these lows at 4.164. Whack, my friend. How the devil are you? Victor Beshev as well. Great of you, BC. Awesome. If time, would you mind looking at like OMG? Yeah, of course, my friend. Let's do that as well. I'll start speeding this up in a second anyway. Let's have a quick look at this, shall we? On the 4 hour. Look, the daily is so clean. When you've got TA on a time frame where everything just makes so much sense, then often pay a lot of respect and give that time frame, a close look, right? Because look, on the 4 hour, this kind of aligns really well. We've got this order block sat down in here. We do have this fair value gap in here as well on the 4 hour. But look how clean this is on the daily. Yeah. This is so very clean. Now, yes, we want a weekly close above, but the daily and the 4 hour can chop in all and around this area, right? And we can still get a close above it or a close below. The key thing is that we have conviction here. I'm more of a person that uses, say, a daily or especially a 4 hour if I'm trading intraday, which is my specialty, as the higher time frame, right? But if you're using the daily as your higher time frame, then look at this beautiful bullish gap down here. Quite simply, you can move down to something like an hourly, for example. Yeah. And then you say to yourself, right, well, what are you looking for here? Well, you're looking to see how price reacts at key levels. What I would say is when you put this on an hourly, is that this all looks a very attractive proposition for price down here, right? So just taking out that low, we now have this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and these equal lows down here, all making a very tempting for price to flush down. So we'd look for something like this into our green box and then price to align with our higher time frame, which is this obviously much better drawn line, all right, to find a reaction back to the upside. And that's definitely how I would be looking at that with near. So let the corrective mode play out, right? Let the thing correct down. I mean, look, if we look down here at the DXY today, again, this is never something that you kind of just use on its own. However, I do really pay a lot of attention to these lines. I have the DXY broken into ranges. You'll have to excuse for the messy nature of the charts. But basically, look, if we start closing below this level, this is a really key pivot point for me, 103.898, right? Now, this level here, price getting back below, I said I was very vocal about it at 105.099 as well. Close below this like we did here. We often see resistance. What happened here? Look, resistance. Close above, support, support, support. Closes below, resistance, resistance, resistance. Just using this as a gauge on risk assets, right? Saying to myself, all right, well, look, if money's pouring into the dollar, then the chances are that there's a little bit more of a flight to safety. That means investors are favoring, non-risk assets, bonds, yields, etc. Is it perfect? No, of course it's not. Nothing is, but it does give us a good little bit of extra confidence. So while we see weakness in the dollar index, it paints a good picture for risk assets like the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, and especially crypto, which is a real beta risk asset, meaning that, expect more volatility, but at the same time expect more risk, right? So with that in mind, we've covered off near. Now we're going to smash through in the remaining high. Well, let's see if we get this done in about 15 minutes. I'm going to take a big guzzle of tea and then we're going to steam into Aave. Right. So Aave. Let's have a look at Aave, shall we? Okay, what we got? Weekly. Okay, like the weekly here. I like the weekly here a lot, actually. And I tell you as for why. We've inverted this. Was a bearish gap. Look, resistance, resistance. What do we say? Strong close above. This should now turn this area to support. The great thing is, if the weekly closes below this, we know that that's incorrect. And then we can start targeting the lows, which are down here at 71.697. However, Obviously, there's going to be a long time for that to play out. So we also want to mark in the highs here, which is at 115.157769. So dropping this down onto the daily, we expect this level to hold at support. So if we take a look at this high here, or actually something you can see, if you kind of look back across this, let me just get rid of this for a moment, because we know this area should be acting as support and resistance. Now, if your eye is really drawn into these kind of highs and lows, when you kind of hold it here, yeah, what I do is get one of these, yeah, horizontal ray, and just pop it on the higher. And then when you look back, you're like, oh, actually, resistance, close above, this area should be support now. And then look back and you say, okay, actually, support, support, resistance, 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 yeah. Then what you can do as well is, even if you take in a bit more data, as you look back, okay, it can get a bit messy around here, but actually, there's obviously a real key pivot point in here, right? You know, so even if you're focusing more on recency and you're saying, okay, where was that close above? Well, it was here, right? So what would you be looking at? Well, if you take the bottom of the body of the candles, yeah, and then you focus a lot more on the bodies and you say, well, actually, that's really not a bad kind of support and resistance level, is it? You know, why not? Resistance here, price closes above, support, 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 big strong close below, underside retest, resistance, strong close above, holds this area, but look how it's dying into it. You're not getting that bounce. You're not getting that kind of V-shape kind of impetus and volume like you do. Sweeper high, boom, big reaction back down, all right? Same with this one, into there, big reaction back down. And then resistance here. So is this the support resistance flip that we're looking for, right? So again, this is going to be a key kind of area, a key pivot point for price to hold. Now, I want to focus a little bit more on, you know, support and resistance, as well as obviously our gaps and bits and pieces. So I'd really like to see price hold this level. The other area we can look at here is this fair value gap inversion. This was the last kind of bastion of support that the bears had to keep price suppressed. We kind of closed through this one, little retest into it. And now that's held really well. So with price moving below this level, I'm not really going to get that bearish until we close below here. Close below here, I expect price to make a move potentially all the way down here to 71,697. However, let's not forget about our premium at discount range. All right, you can take it from that low, or some purists might take it from this low. However you're looking at it, just be consistent in what you do. So for me, it's this, because that's the expansion leg higher. There was the consolidation here, but ultimately that wick low is of interest to me. So we could see price correct down towards this fair value gap here, which is 88.404. All right, so that's what's going to tell us. But as long as we hold this area, then expecting more upside. Now on the 4 hour, what do we want to kind of put into play? Well, quite simply, if price isn't, you know, if price is going to be super bullish, then we need to respect the fact that price is drawing down into this bullish FVG as we speak. We can look at this area to hold ultimately and for price to pull up. But I tell you what's really got my interest here is this. It's a low with inside a fair value gap, all right? So we've got a bullish fair value gap here. And as traders, we're looking for confluence. Yeah. What does that mean? Well, it means that we want to align our higher time frame with our intermediate time frame with our execution time frame, right? Meaning that if the daily is saying and the weekly is saying we want to hold this area, this big purple box, well, let's look for things on the 4 hour to align with that. Meaning that, okay, we need to come down below this, but if we close below this, then we can intraday scalp into this area, because this would be inverted and this would show us weakness. We've got that in 20 minutes time. But this area here, I could absolutely see price doing something like this, closing down below this, coming to take that liquidity below here, having this reaction, and then really stepping back in. Why? Because people are typically late to the market in their decision. Everyone says they want to be a buyer here or here or here, but very few actually do. People wait for here and then start to sell and go, oh, okay, right, well, all right, yeah, I'm sure, great. Where's your stop loss? Above here or above here, right? And then what happens is the market takes liquidity from the lows and then starts to attack your liquidity on the highs, right? A lot of this is about conviction. So Aave, really, really clear plan here. Whilst we hold this, very difficult to be bearish. We want to, you know, from an intraday basis, but I'm really favoring this area down here at 95.7327. Duncan, you know what, mate? I'll squeeze that one last one in, but that's going to be the last one we're going to do today, guys, all right, which is going to be Atom. So that's Aave. We've got XRP, Rune, Sol, Kaz, Floki, OMG, and Atom to do. So let's crack on, shall we? Let's now go to XRP. And again, start with our weekly. What's the weekly telling us? Well, weekly's telling us that these are two huge expansions here. We came up, took out these relative equal highs. So that's the kind of pivot point or support resistance level that I'm looking at the moment, which is at 0.5719. Now, moving on to a daily, again, we can see that beautiful expansion higher across here. This has had a really, really long run here, right? So I would be expecting for it to cool off. I'd be looking to price to kind of correct down and hold this level. On a daily scale, if we close in and around where we are, which I can absolutely see happening, we don't have a news catalyst to really drive volatility in the market today. So looking for this area here to hold, but it's only confirmed when that comes in. Without that being there, without that close, sorry, which obviously we need to wait for tomorrow, then if price does really start to come down, then the order block here, which is a very skinny one, at 0.5263 is a key level. But let's not forget about our support resistance level here, which again, you see these key levels, and if you kind of draw them back, you'll be amazed how often they play a part, okay? Again, these support resistance levels are very rarely lines. They're more like kind of boxes, right? But again, look, resistance flips its support, deviation below, up and under, comes back, closes, sells off for liquidity. Resistance here, support, resistance, all right? That's the one that you're in there. Duncan, you are very welcome, my friend. So that's what I'd be looking for there. On the 4 hour, hopefully we get a little bit more context from this. This is, remember, our daily order block down here. However, thankfully on this one, we have a few other areas to go by, right? We've got a nice bullish FEG here, which was tapped into here, not rebalanced fully, but it's done its job, tapped into and flown away. So if we want to hold this level, we also want to be aware of our daily order block, which are these two down close candles here. And also in 17 minutes, it looks like price is going to close and leave us a nice fair value gap here as well. Okay, so looking for longs within here if we expect bullish continuation on the lower time frames. However, on the higher time frames, makes sense to kind of probably come back and retest this area here around 0.5719. That's XRP. Move on to Rune. So there goes, quick sip of tea, keep you going. So Rune, where thank you, Dynaway. Absolutely forgot I'd muted myself there to put that on. So just to cover that again, Rune is looking a lot more bearish here, right? We have this bearish gap. We have this key swing high here that's within this bearish gap. Price needs to conquer this and then also close above that. Should be back now, guys. Apologies. I flicked it onto mute to just cough quickly and take a sip of tea. Do let me know if it's all back okay. But just saying, this is a key liquidity pool here, a higher resting within a bearish fair value gap. We want to see a weekly close above that. Now, on a daily scale, we can see that actually we've had a little bit more of a bullish turn here, right? The upper fair value gap here, which was bearish, has now flipped to support and has been confirmed as support, right? We got that close above. Price found support here. Where do we then target? Well, we target the next high. Now, we've taken that high at the moment. So again, I would really want to see price show some strength and close above here. I think this is a little bit awesome. Thank you, Dynaway. I think this is a bit of a treacherous place to just start running into long positions here. I think we could see this area retested again. If we do get a daily close above this, then that would confirm it as an order block. So we could look for that as support as well. However, if we move to the 4 hour, we can see we've had this nice close above this order block here. So again, on a 4 hour basis, I would expect that to hold, and also this fair value gap. This to me seems like a likely destination. We've taken external liquidity for price to come back down into here. I think we see two scenarios, one of which is price comes here, finds support and moves higher, or price closes below this, and then we look to chase down these lows. The low, which I'm talking about here, would be sat at 3.903. Okay, so our old friend Solana. Let's see what we're looking at here. Okay, so once again, and look, I know a lot of these are going to look similar on these time frames, right? But we have this weekly bearish gap. We've had a strong move through it here, which is great. We've got a nice upside target over here, right, which is set at 175.61. Now we've closed above this, now looking for expansion into this high. Now, sorry, we haven't closed above this, but if we do, we look for expansion to this high. It might happen anyway, which is why we're going to finesse this on the lower time frames, all right? But again, it's really important to note that on a weekly time scale, we require a weekly close. Now we're going to move down onto a daily time scale. You know, we need a daily close, all right? But again, we can see, you know, this area, you see the resistance built up in this area here, the support that's built up here, and how this is kind of mirroring that a bit in becoming a key pivot point. Yeah. If we draw that across here, you can see resistance, 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 support, closes below now, rejection, rejection. Now we've had that strong close above that area. We can see it getting retested. So now we want to say, okay, well, where's our upside targets here? This is a really key one for me here on the daily. It's at 165.92, okay? Now, we're going to move straight down to the 4 hour here, because the 4 hour, I would imagine, yeah, has got a really nice kind of order block that's been set here. So we want to look at this and say, okay, well, look, if we're looking for bullish continuation, this needs to hold and we need to push up. We can drive deeper into order blocks, right? It doesn't need just an immediate reaction at this high line. You don't need to see it touch this and fly to the moon. We need to remember that this whole area, and I typically focus on the bodies, or certainly the flat of the body down to the bottom of the wick, right? So that would be there down to here. Drawing that across, making that whole area an order block, we could see price kind of dip into, you know, 50% of this. So if we put that on there and put one of our 50% on here, yeah, this little line here. So we can see the confluence, even if you were drawing just including the bodies, right? Again, remember the volume is in the bodies. We can see how this has confluence here. So maybe we get a move like this. Price comes down, wicks below this, but holds this gap. And that's what it uses for the resurgence. However, if we close below this gap, yeah, inverting it, meaning it turns purple, then I would absolutely be favoring us to move down towards this swing low here, which is sat around 15277. All right. So that is Solana. Now we're going to take a look at KAS. Let's take a look here. Ah, brilliant. All right, let's take a look at it with our partners over at Bybit, shall we? So weekly, this is looking quite strong on the weekly. Love the bullish formation, higher highs, higher lows, higher high. What level's capping the market at the moment? This, right, that swing high there, obviously a previous all-time high, sat at 0.19103. Look, resistance, resistance. Price hasn't been able to close above it. This is a key point for price. We want to see a weekly close above that level. Let's take a look at this. So as we go up, okay, nice. So we've actually got some real nice structure to this market at the moment. So in terms of looking for price wanting to pull back anywhere, I would think that area there is key. Order block tops at 0.17047. I think if price is going to continue down for a little bit for a corrective move, we want to see this area hold and then push up. I think we're going to get a bit more context here on our 4 hour. Excuse me. So key area here is we've rebalanced this now, but that for me still, you know, got significance to it. It's a nice bullish gap. Price wicked into this, rebalancing it, but it hasn't violated it. I'd want to see a close below here before I start getting bearish on this. I do think price could move down towards this kind of level. In fact, just to put it out there, if I was looking at this as an intraday play, I'd be saying to myself, well, you know, back above New York midnight opening price here, we're reacting from a bearish gap. So quite simply, I think if this thing is going to, you know, continue down and we are going to get that correction, then, you know, we basically stay below this, close above this. And I think we're coming up to at least this high around 0.18027. So that's CAS out of the way. Now with our friends Floki. Here we go. Look at these buttes. And actually, we're now back to the kind of more traditional looking charts as we had previously, which is very nice and healthy. Shows that it's kind of a bit more aligned with the major players. Right. So again, Skinny gap here, but one that's definitely of interest. Currently capping price around here. So what are we looking for? Well, we've taken liquidity from the lows. The danger that we have here is that when price comes down and takes liquidity from a low or a high, which is external liquidity, we then look for price to rebalance internally, which is a fair value gap like this, and then move back down for lower liquidity, all right? So that would be that low there or this low here. However, what would invalidate that is if we get a weekly close above. Excuse me. So as long as we get our weekly close above, I think we start making moves high, but we do want to be aware of this gap here as well. On a daily scale, however, this thing has been a beast, all right? Now, you know, credit where credit's due. We've got an amazing team around us at TBN, and they were having us buying this stuff up in batches. We were kind of DCAing all the way down to here, even had orders down below the key liquidity pools down there. It's just, you know, when you've got kind of such exposure and you do so much research into a project and you've got so much conviction in it, it makes it a lot easier to kind of dollar cost average your way in. So whether you're looking at it from that perspective or one of a kind of leverage trading perspective, my key area here is still the same. It's this. Yeah, this FVG here. And what I'm looking for price to do is refuel in here and use that to make a nice aggressive move higher, ultimately closing the week out above this level and giving us all a nice lot of upside with it. So on the 4 hour, what are we looking at? Well, we've got a beautiful line in the sand here. Bullish gap, which has held. Yes, it's been rebalanced, but it hasn't been violated. Close below this. I think we get a deeper correction, maybe into kind of this one. You're absolutely right, Dino, I do. I would love a cup of honey and lemon. I suffer quite badly with hay fever, and that. So this time of year always kind of got a little bit of a tickly cough or kind of a bit of a dodgy chest on me. But I love honey and lemon, mate. That is a great suggestion. So yeah, hold this. I think this level could hold, and maybe we pump from here. But, you know, looks a little bit weak here. We've kind of had that sell-off down here. Price kind of meandered through Tuesday. Let's take a look and see what we get. But I think close below here, we see a deeper corrective move down to here. But looking at this expansion leg higher, I'm not really that concerned. If we look at this as the high and then the low, this is where we got the structure break to the upside here, right? Again, look, that's the key higher. Look what a great support resistance level that turns into. Yeah, so what do? Come down, set this low here, high, low, higher, high, lower, low, impulse and close above it, use it as support. So why is that significant? Because if I take that entire price leg up, then I'm happy to see price correct down into the lower 50%, meaning this FVG. So if we close below this one, violating it, my expectation is for price to draw lower down to this area here, all right? But still super bullish on that. Super bullish on Floki overall, all right? But again, you want to make sure you're overlying your technicals as well. So 2 more to go, I think. OMG. BC is checking in like it would be Children's Day today. Oh, brilliant. Love that. So OMG USD. Here we go. Oh, okay. So let's take a look what this one would be on. Sure, we've got to be, yeah, we've got this bad boy by a bit, haven't we? Oh, lots of equal highs, right? Great liquidity pools. Okay, not much to write home here about on the weekly, apart from the fact that there's obviously a lot of upside for this beast. Wowzers. All right, so, man, that is, what have we got? Potential upside. Only 8,557%. So if we can find anything, any good reason to have a technical hold on this, if this thing isn't just dying an aggressive death, then wow, I mean, there's huge upside potential here, right? So key pivot point I'm looking at is here. Boom, there we go, all right? So what have we got? Strong close below. We haven't seen this area retested. This is where we want to get it back above. Then this becomes a deviation and we look to rip higher. Massive bearish gap here as well, okay? So not really getting much else than that on the weekly scale. Oh, I love these daily equal highs. These things are such a beautiful draw on price. However, we need to look at what's right in front of us first of all. Close above this area, then we come and take these out. I'd be really, really positive about that. You're very welcome, Andre. Now, we've got these lows down here. We've seen a really good reaction, though, after kind of taking out this swing low. So we now want to see if price can kind of hold this level and ultimately move a little bit higher. But at the moment, while we're being rejected in here on a daily scale, very, very difficult to be bullish. So looking at the 4 hour, I think we want to say to ourselves, right, well, we really want to see a key indication. What I don't like about this is quite simply that this bullish gap that everybody would have been hoping from a bullish perspective will hold has had a big strong close below it now, but also in the same time taken out all of this liquidity, right? You see how when we start building these clusters of liquidity, right, what do we have? Low, 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 right? All of these untapped make this gigantic liquidity pool, and very, very easy for them people that are getting long late in this move up to get themselves wrecked. All right, that liquidity can then, the good news is for the bulls, is this liquidity can then act as a springboard to push price higher. However, I would want to see price above this. We've only got 3 minutes till the close, but I mean, look, the fact that we are about to violate this, I'd be very, very shocked if we didn't in the next 3 minutes. So that then becomes an inversion, and we look for this to be resistance. I would need to see price back above this level to then be willing to long this. Obviously, look, you can have other techniques where you can put positions. That's just how I look at the market. But for an expectation that we attack these liquidity pools higher up, and especially this one, then I want to see some bullish structure. And at the moment, we've set a low, a lower high, and now this is our break of structure here, which is our MSB, or our market structure break. So we need to see price regain structure by getting back above this high here, where we would have a shift, and then we want to see price kind of hold this area here before building a base and then looking to move higher. All right, so that's where we are on OMG. And now we've got one more to do, and the smash out atom will just about get done before 1 o'clock. And let's take a look again over our friends at Binance. So on a weekly scale, again, a lot like some of the healthier assets that we've seen here in terms of structure. We've taken this key low. We also swept out this key low down here. All right, so we've taken some key liquidity pools. We kind of also holding, you know, this level here, which we can see resistance, price close above. It's very, very messy here, right? But I would probably say, you know, if you were looking at this as an SR level, you'd be seeing price kind of coming into this kind of area, right? Very, very difficult. But look, all of this resistance here, strong close above, all of this support, price ultimately comes higher. So I'd be looking at that at 4.7787 as a downside target. In terms of looking at our market dynamics, which is something I pay, you know, as much weight to, if not more, we want to see a weekly close above this. Again, we have a bearish gap here. We just want to see price close above this, showing us the first signs of strength since we really started to break down up here. Now, moving on to a daily. Well, daily, again, is quite nice and clear here on Atom, right? We've got this big bearish gap. That's what's currently kind of suppressing price. We want to see price close above that. And then we have these pre-made liquidity pools higher up. The key is if we do close above this here, we want to see this area hold. Remember, this is not support yet. It's still resistance until proven otherwise, meaning that if I was looking to trade this intraday today, I would still be favoring short setups in here, even though we've had this bullish resurgence, okay? Now, we do have this immediate high above, which we would pay attention to at 6.958, and that is where we would look to rip to. Okay, moving this down now onto a 4 hour. Yeah, that is a very true statement. Atom has been in a long, deep sleep. Do you know what? Years back, it was one of the very best and cleanest assets to trade. So let's hope they can turn things around. Now, on the 4 hour, this is really interesting, okay? So I'm just going to get rid of this at the moment. We know, oh no, I won't get rid of it. Actually, just make it red again because we haven't inverted that. You can see here, this whole thing is screaming resistance to us. However, we know that on the lower time frames here, we want to be nimble, right? Meaning that we want to look for early signs to tell us whether or not we think that we can take some higher risk plays, meaning that on the higher time frame, although this is bearish or we're in a bearish area, you know, we're still bullish on the lower time frames, and the 4 hours significant. So we've now flipped this level. We inverted this bearish gap again when we closed above here. That's our first sign that price was going to seek liquidity here and then higher up. Again, this higher becomes a key support and resistance level. Right. Why? Resistance, resistance, strong close above. Now we want to see this area hold. This is also, if we put it on the body, this is also our order block. And look how clean that is there. Right. If you move that back to a 1 thickness, you can see literally to the point how the body respected that. Right. Rejection, rejection, respected it, closed above it. Now we want to see this area hold. Right. So what I'd be looking for here, if I'm thinking of continuation, Obviously, a little bit low on liquidity on this one at the moment. We can see even on Binance, which is such a huge liquidity provider, although it's a spot market, right? Not derivative. So we're probably asking a bit much of it moving on to this time frame. In fact, let me just want to give you a fair representation of this, right? So while we're in here, what do I want to see? I want to see a sweep of a key liquidity pool. We've got that in Asia's low. Now we just want to see a structure. We need to see a structure break, right? That's the best way to do this. We would want to see something like this. Then we set a higher low. Break of this. This is the area that we look to be buyers. All right. So on that dotted line, that's the key thing. You'd want to see price retrace down to here, or you play a strong breakout, intraday trading it up into these highs. Now, again, if we really start to break back down below this level, then I think we need to correct a bit lower. And this low down here, which is at 6.482, is looking mighty tempting as well. And you know what? Yeah, that's it. All right, that is it with Atom. Okay, guys, sorry, we're not going to get time to take a look at Doge now. Really do have to just shoot off because we start our live trading session in 15 minutes. Got a little bit of prep to do for that and might even shove a sandwich in my face and make a quick cup of tea as well. All right, guys. Look, a big shout out to everybody that made the stream again today. Really do have a lot of time for you all giving up your time to attend these. I hope the TA has kind of given you certainly a reflection of my insights into the market. Please do make sure to check out the information we've got down in the description. There's all the links to our amazing partners where you can get some incredible deals. But also on the flip side is the education community that we run. We're incredibly proud of it. One of the top educators in the space. Do pop along, try it out. You can start with memberships from free, right? There's loads of stuff on there. If you're interested in my education stuff or live streams, you can find them all on our TBN. That's the Birb Nest, BIRB Nest YouTube channel. Go to the live tab. As well as that, there's tons of great free educational content all the way from our TA, our higher time frame swing masters, as well as psychologists as well, like your NLP coach. All right, guys, I'll see you Nest Club Legends and Trade Club Legends over in about 15 minutes for our live show. And the rest of you, I will see you again on Monday. Do have a fantastic week ahead. Trade safe. Remember, the more you can conserve your capital, you'll be ahead of the market every day. Make sure the plays and the trades that you take are high conviction based around a tested and proven strategy. Okay. Have a fantastic week, everyone. Really do look forward to seeing you all around the Nest.